Hello and welcome to another episode of FEA's My Facility podcast, where we dive into the latest innovations, trends, and solutions in facilities planning and management. We will bring you conversations with industry experts, innovators, and thought leaders to help you navigate the challenges and opportunities in managing your facilities. At FEA, we're committed to building excellence where we live, work, and play. So if you're looking to stay ahead of the curve and improve your asset management strategy or facility financial planning, you're in the right place. So let's jump in and unlock the secrets to smarter facility planning in today's episode.
Well, thank you, Mohammed, for joining me today in this podcast. I'm excited. This is the first one of these I've participated in on either side, either being the questioner or the one being questioned. So I hope things go well today. And thank you again for your time today. So, Mohammed, you've been with FEA for a couple of years now, and you've shown yourself to be a gifted writer. And that's been a wonderful addition to our team as a proposal writer for FEA. But most of that writing is more professional writing. And you clearly bring some skills to the table. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into writing in general.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very good question, John. Thank you. I remember in 2014, we had a farm full of olive trees and citrus trees and such as oranges, lemons, etc. And something bad really happened that we lost that farm. And my grandfather, who owned that farm, had a heart attack because he basically grew up in that farm. And, I had a lot of mixed emotions, anger, sadness, sorrow, and I needed to find a way to express these emotions and feelings, I would say. And the only way to express those feelings was through writing, and it was in English. Again, English is not even my second language, it's my third language, and which can be challenging if you think about it. But it felt like that gift was already there, and I discovered it, if that makes sense. And I started writing, journaling, no poetry, nothing yet, just journaling, writing without even publishing anything, even though I had Facebook and stuff, just expressing how I felt. And I ended up writing a few poetic lines, a few verses, free verses, and about the death of my grandfather, about these olive trees, about the land. And I remember when I came to the US, I wanted to go to school, and I asked around. People were like, "Oh, if you really want to choose a good field where you can make good money in the US, you should go to IT and web development." I was like, well, me and IT are enemies. I don't do anything about that. Well, I was like, okay, well, if it pays well, I will give it a shot. I did sign up. I got accepted at GW University. And I just spent literally 2 months, and I was like, I cannot do this. I need something that includes writing. I need something that includes creative writing. I need to combine my hobbies with, my job, the job I had. And I don't know if you will believe this, John. I still don't believe this, but one day during COVID, I was sitting at a closed cafeteria at GW with my friend. His name was Alan. And we were sitting on the seats, and he went to the restroom. And I actually asked him to come to the school to complain to him about the situation. Like, I needed to find a field that combines writing and like the field has to have writing at least. And he went to the restroom, and I started just talking to myself, and all of a sudden I looked to my right, and I saw a guy I have never seen before. He was dressed in white. Again, this is crazy. I'm telling you, he was dressed in white, and he was like, "Tell me, I feel like you are stressed. What's going on?" I was like, "Who are you? Excuse me. Like, I don't know you." I was like, "Yeah, but I know you." I was like, "What?" And then I complained to him, and I told him, I really need a field that combines writing and maybe IT, but any job that includes writing in it, because that's what I do and that's what I love doing. But writing doesn't bring you money if you just write and publish and post. And he said, what did you do in the past few years? I was like, well, I did some researching in Chile when I lived in Chile. I did some technical writing. I did some translation. We wrote some proposals for the for the government in Chile, etc. He was like, okay, well, go home and look for proposal writing jobs, because that definitely will make your dream come true. And I swear, my friend Ellen came and I wanted to introduce him to this unknown guy, and I looked to my right again and the guy was gone. I have no idea what was that,
Yeah.
whether it was like a daydreaming thing. And since then, I did, some Googling about like what is proposal writing in the US. Again, I did some proposal writing in Chile and here, but it was different. And I landed my first job after 2 weeks.
Well, that's a fascinating story, and regardless of your inspiration, it's real to you, and that's all that counts. And it led you on another
Absolutely.
part of your life journey and got you to where you are today. And how have you started balancing that creative, or actually maybe applying your creative writing skills to the professional environment and being able to turn that not only into something that's a passion that you enjoy, but also turning it into what is now a very meaningful and
Absolutely.
viable occupation and contribution to a company like FEA?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at balancing, when you look at the professional writing, which is the technical or proposal writing, it is very concise, structured, and it's usually client focused, if that makes sense. However, poetry is free, open, creative, and more. It's mostly emotional, personal. So switching between those two modes is not always easy. However, I feel like structure and technical writing makes my poetry clearer. It really helps it. And the creativity of the poetry itself, it makes my professional writing more engaging.
Yeah, I could see how that would play off, because even if you're writing professionally, you're writing with a purpose to try to establish some sort of connection. And the connection on the other end is going to be another human being,
Absolutely.
unless we get to a
Unless
point
it's an
where
AI thing.
our proposals are now just being scanned in and analyzed by an AI tool. And that's
Yeah.
probably already happening and we don't even know it. But that's
Who
another
knows
that's
exactly.
another
Yeah.
podcast for another day. We'll get a different audience and get into all that. They'll remember our proposal by the fact that there was a human connection to it, not
Exactly.
just a technical list of accomplishments and
Absolutely.
things that we say we're going to do. So I think
100%.
that is helpful, I think, to do that. I know another type of writing that you've done a fair amount for us and have helped others with as well is not only in proposal writing, but preparing content for various publications. We have a lot of professional societies of which FEA participates, and many of them have outlets, whether it's web-based outlets or printed publications, or now a lot of days the magazine that used to be printed is now available online. So there's various outlets for that. So as you think about, say, writing for an article where it's not as constrained, where a proposal might have some very strict rules about what content they want, in what order, and exactly how to express it, where you maybe have this opportunity to be a little bit more free form, because the article, while it might be limited, hey, write about this subject in 1,500 words or something like that, otherwise it's kind of up to you. How do you approach the writing of an article and delivering a message or a content with some freedom without making it so free form that it doesn't sell and never gets published?
I think that's a very good question, John. Thank you. I think writing articles definitely is in between proposal writing or technical writing and creative writing. It has to be a little bit creative, but also it has to be a little bit dry because it's full of facts and statistics, etc. So I think my approach is mainly understanding the problem, and then I would think of the solution. So it's basically a problem solving approach. And also I try my best to weave in elements of storytelling as well, because that would attracts readers. I remember I was gifted a gift on my birthday. A whole book. It was like 70 pages, and there was no writer on that. There was no title on that book. I thought it was like forgotten, or it was not printed well or something. Then my friend, he told me, guess what? This was written by AI. The whole book, 250 pages. But I read the few pages, I was like, I don't feel like there is a soul in these pages. There is no like feeling, no emotions, if that makes sense. So yeah, as I mentioned, as long as I understand the problem, and as long as I know the solution, I can write the article, but also I should always focus on the storytelling. Even if maybe you have read some of these articles that I either co-wrote with Maureen, or I published on one of these magazines. You could tell it's mostly storytelling. It feels like I am talking to you as a reader, and that's my approach.
Yeah. No, that's
And
great. And that again allows the blending in a very natural way of both creativity as well as structure, because
100%.
even in a professional publication, they do have certain things that will appeal to their audiences and really expectations of the audience. If they turn to an article about facility condition assessments and you had written a poem about facility condition assessments, they might read it, but they might think this doesn't really
irrelevant
here. This might belong somewhere else. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But also, John, I have heard that you have written a lot of articles. I don't know if these days you still write, but I have learned that you wrote a lot in the past.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot, certainly not to the degree you have, but I do contribute articles, and I have for many years, going back to my time when I was on active duty in the Navy, still contributing to professional publications that I was a part of. And it's really has been more in the professional sense, in that it was a targeted publication with a very specific purpose. I do not have that creative flair that you described of really the welling up emotions. That's I'm more, I guess, more left brain and very analytical, and have always done well in math and science. That's how I became an engineer in my career.
And we need that all the time, by the way.
Yeah, and people accuse engineers of being bad writers, and I don't think I'm a bad writer, but I think my writing probably doesn't have as much emotion or storytelling in it as it could. It tends to be more technical and precise. But when I do write an article, I follow a lot of the same ideas that you were hinting at. And one of the first things is I don't just sit down and start writing. I think through, and this maybe is my analytical brain and the way I work. I think, well, what's the purpose of this? Am I trying to convince somebody to do something? Am I trying to expose them to something that they can go off and research on their own? Am I lauding the success of the people that I've worked with so others can share in that? What is the purpose? And then the second, for me, the other very important thing, and this comes whether I'm writing an article or making a presentation at a professional society or shortlist, is who's the target audience? And because in a more business-like environment and a more technical environment, narrowing down the message with the right tone and the right content, right level of complexity too. You don't want to, in technical writing, you don't want to talk over your audience's head to where they get done reading and they go, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Absolutely.
So, whereas that kind of writing has a place if you're trying to, publish research and have a peer review journal or something like that. But that's not the kind of writing that I've done, and not the kind of things, the articles that we write, whether here it's FEA or other places I've been. They're just really refining what's that What's the target audience and what's the message I'm trying to get across? From there, I can build a process. And my thought process, again, a lot of these is, what's the problem that is often the case? Because you want to create some sort of tension
Exactly.
to
Yep.
grab the reader's attention to say, oh, I've got that problem too. And if they don't, they'll move on and not read that article. But if it resonates with them, hey, I've heard about
They
that, or
keep
I've
going.
got
Yep.
that problem too. So what's the problem? What is the hint of the solution, or what is the solution, or our proposed way of addressing how to think about the solution to that problem? Sometimes we don't give people answers in our work. We give them a way to think about a problem that they can come up with the answer on their own, and that might actually be more applicable to more people than just saying this is the way you do it. But what's the problem, what's the solution, and then what are some practical steps on how to get there, how to apply it. So that flow of grabbing them, whether it's the title of the article, that first paragraph that you talked about, you want to hook
Absolutely.
right off the bat. Why should I bother to spend any more time reading this article? Why
Yep.
should I stay in the room to listen to John's presentation? So,
The first paragraph,
and so
definitely.
it's a form of storytelling where you kind of give them the foreshadowing of, hey, there's this really, Jim
Like a
walked
hint.
in, Jim
Yeah,
walked
yeah.
behind, whatever, again, I'm not a creative writer, so I should stop right there. But
I
what's
think
the
you
hook?
got the gift. We talked about writing, your writing, and but what are your favorite topics to write about or speak about, even in general, outside your work, of course?
Yeah. Well, I have found over the years, one of the things I've learned about myself, both in practice of the career jobs I've had over the years, as well as through some of the formal assessments I've been through. We get different jobs I've had over the years. I've had leadership assessments. I've had sort of business personality assessments, a number of the different tools that are out there. And one of the common things that comes back when I take those assessments is I have a very inquisitive mind. I'm a learner. I've been a lifelong learner. And where that comes out then is not only taking information in, but I'm very much, I see myself as a teacher. And so the things that I do in addition to work oftentimes relate to sharing with others, and whether it's taking a complex, what could be perceived as a complex business topic, something that FEA does. And this comes up sometimes in our proposals. I'll be part of the proposal writing team sometime, where I'll have a section that I need to prepare. And as I said before, I'm not the creative type. So how do I take this, what might be perceived as a very seemingly complex topic, and not oversimplify it to the point of, oh, this is easy, but really to how to explain something that can be complex in an understandable way. And so when I'm giving presentations in a professional audience sense, when I'm talking to my own kids about things, whether it's about life or finances, or how to fill up gas for the first time in their car, or whatever it might be, I try to do it in a way that comes across as, again, very much of a teachable spirit. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying, this is what I've learned from my experience, and this is what I would suggest you do to go along the way. And sometimes, kids listen. Sometimes kids listen for a while and they turn to adults, and that's okay. I didn't always listen to what my parents told me, and I've turned out okay too.
Absolutely.
So really, it's not so much a specific topic that interests me as much as just the mindset of being a teacher. And
absolutely,
I stumbled across something too during my career. I was progressing along in my active duty Navy career. I was a facility management person. It's a specialty part of the Navy called the Civil Engineer Corps. It's a group of uniformed Navy officers who are responsible for the shore side of the Navy and for construction that's overseas, with even in combat environments in some cases, although I did not have to go into combat at any point, but taking care of the facilities and infrastructure that the rest of the Navy needs, so that there's a runway for a plane to land on, there's a pier for a ship to pull into, There are barracks rooms on base for the troops to live in if they are unaccompanied. There's family housing, there's roads, there's water, there's all the things that go along. And a military base especially overseas, but also here in the United States, pretty much like a small city. So had a lot of
You gotta coordinate all of that.
yeah, experience in that. And so that was my career field in the Navy. And one of my assignments was to go to the training command, the schoolhouse, where all Navy civil engineer officers who are starting their career, whether they're brand new to the Navy or they're transferring from some other community, they might have been a pilot or a submarine officer or a surface line officer, and they decided they wanted to go into this specialty community. There was a schoolhouse there, and I was on staff at that schoolhouse as an instructor and a curriculum developer. So I worked on helping figure out what those students needed to learn. And there was a very formal process to go that. I wasn't just making stuff up, but going through that formal process of how to develop the curriculum and then how to actually teach it in an engaging way so that the students learn from that. And I sort of stumbled into that job. It wasn't one I necessarily asked for, but once I got into it, I loved it. And I actually ended up extending in that assignment an additional year, both to line up my career path, but also because I was just enjoying it so much. And ever since then, I have always looked for opportunities to teach. And so that's my creative outlet in terms of how to share information. I don't necessarily sit down and write something out, but coming up with how to take something that's complex or something that's new to somebody, even if it's not complex, but it's new to them. So how do you break things down and lay it out in a way that they come away at the end and go, I get it.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of great people at FEA who do that. I'm not the only one who does teaching and curriculum development. Others, there's a lot of folks here who've been part of some of the biggest work we've done over the last couple of years have been a series of in-person and virtual courses, same content, but given in two different settings about, of all things, maintenance of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, and how to oversee your buildings and how to oversee the contractors who are taking care of the buildings to make sure they're doing it right. And so we as a team here have developed the curriculum itself, and there's a lot of folks here who worked on that to make, and with embedded videos and slides and in-class exercises or virtual exercises that get the students talking to each other and sharing their experiences. More interactive. And all those kind of things. And we would typically go out, like we did a lot of this in 2024. We would go out and do team teaching on the road. So 2 of us from FEA and a class of 25 to 30 students at various locations around the country delivering this class to our client. And now we've been doing that in a virtual environment. And I signed up for every one of those that I could fit into my schedule without being gone from home too much, because I just
you seem very busy.
I love teaching. Yeah. And I also want to just thank you as well. Prior to your arrival at FEA a couple of years ago, we all took pieces and parts to put proposals together, and while it worked and FEA has been around for a long time, it has been so much easier from my perspective getting out the gate with a proposal with a really good, strong draft. And you and your organizational skills, your creative skills, the things you and others on the business development team have done collectively, but you in particular as a proposal writer, has really helped move our business forward and allowed us to respond to more things, respond to things in a different way, in a higher quality way than we've done today. So thank you for all that. Thank you for sharing that. And thanks for taking the time today to share your creativity, your background and all. It's been fascinating to get to hear that. And I wish you not only all the best here at FEA, but as you make decisions about your poetry and perhaps publicizing that you'll come to a decision that's right for you. Whatever that decision is, it'll be right for you.
I will definitely keep you posted, John. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Mohammed. It was great talking to you today.
You too. Thank you so much. Take care.